My name is Johnny, and I'm the host, executive producer, and Prince of Lies for the Monsters Playbook. What's the Monsters Playbook? It's an actual play Monster of the Week podcast set in my hometown of Minneapolis, Minnesota, where no monster can hurt you as badly as you can hurt yourself. It's a character-focused adventure where you'll meet Kira Ashwood, a journalist with a cult past she's desperate to atone for, and a secret power hidden even from herself. Casey Davis, a taciturn secret agent becoming disillusioned with the agency she thought she could trust. Theo Nessos, a professional sorceress trying to escape the shadow of her powerful magical family. And Mark Clayton, a pretty haunted introvert who just wants to make sense of his powers and all the weird things that keep happening to him. This is a show where danger could just as easily come from an otherworldly threat as from the fragile emotions that anchor our characters and bind them together. If you like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The Dresden Files, or any city-set supernatural story with monstrous threats and messy feelings, check out The Monsters Playbook. New episodes every other Tuesday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Life's a game, the world's a stage, and we are merely role-players, where theatrical people play role-playing games. I'm your compere, Matt, and welcome backstage of this main house production. Joining me backstage are the cast of that production.
Hello, I'm Martha. I play Harper, the searcher.
Hello, I'm Nat, and I play Gwynned, the divine.
Hi, I'm Vicky, and I play Renko, the flake.
Ahoy, I'm Josh, and I'm playing Jinny Greenteeth, the spellslinger.
Welcome all backstage to come up with some backstory between these characters. Interesting that we are many productions into Vigil now, and we still have quite a lot of connections to form in this episode, because we've got a few people who haven't, these characters who have not played together before, at least in Vigil. But before we go into the questions on the playbooks, the official history questions, I want to recap the relationship between two characters who have met before, Gwyn and Harper, who were both in All Aboard. What was the connection that you decided on at the start of that series? And then I want to go into how that connection has changed due to your time in the shadow.
As far as Gwyn was concerned, the prophecies did not mention Harper at all. You should not be here.
Oh, no.
I don't understand why.
That's awkward.
Sorry about that. Yeah, she has a bad habit of being where she's not expected. She's not super keen on the any supernatural force that's actively, moving pieces, she's not a fan of. But she ended up taking Gwyn with her to the Shadow Realm to try and save her life, not knowing whether that would work. I didn't know if going through the door would take me to the Shadow Realm, and I didn't know if I could bring other people with me to the Shadow Realm. So that was we'll see what happens. So yeah, last we heard Gwyn was there, passed out because she was very hurt. She was a little dying.
Yeah, just a little.
Yeah, and at the time we just chose to leave it there. As a little cliffhanger, keep the audience guessing. Yeah. But now that we've got the two of you back together again for another production, we don't need to go into loads and loads of detail, but did Gwyn regain consciousness in the shadow? What sort of experience did the two of you have? How has it changed your relationship? That's the key question.
Well, I think the first thing Harper would have done is see if she could, if Sombra or any kind of force in the Shadow Realm could stabilize Gwyn, so she stopped dying. And then she was sort of off in her own world trying to make connections. But something I wanted to do was see if her being there, obviously everything looks different in the Shadow Realm. I wanted to see if to Harper, Gwyn looked, if there was anything about the way she looked in this realm that stood out to her. And Sombra especially, being from here, I'm like, does anything about her stick out to you? Get as much information about her while she was still away, of dying, as possible. And then probably the minute you start regaining consciousness, try to get you to the revolving door and see. She was, I don't know if you guys know, but I have this little room, like a detective agency room over there, and it's like crazy person covered in like, well, not red thread because everything is black and white, but like a lot of I have my wall of like evidence and connections built over literally years and years since she was a child.
So you like Charlie Day and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia meme. Yeah,
essentially.
I like to think, I mean, it's your world, but everything's in black and white apart from that red string.
Oh, yes, that would be, I mean, if Matt allows it, I would be.
That is so noir.
100%.
So cool.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, we're Sin City rules.
It's Sin City.
That's spoken directly to my heart. Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is one answer to that question about Gwyn's influence on this place. Did Gwyn go into black and white, or was Gwyn in colour in this place?
I mean, Gwyn's already pretty black and white in the real world.
So maybe she fit in.
Very pale and dark.
Suddenly she's like an imperial duck. Is it imperial ducks? There's really colourful duck colours coming out. I'm like, what is this? I don't know. Is that up to me?
I'm leaving this completely up to you two.
Sombra, it shouldn't be up to you.
Matt, do all the work for us, please.
That's so interesting, isn't it? Because one of my things is like after this experience, it being the first time Harper has brought anyone to the Shadow Realm, she would start to bring other innocent living creatures, not trying to harm them, to see if it actually worked.
Like if it's a Gwyn thing.
It's a Gwyn thing, or if it's like any non-magical creature can also come up. I don't have the answer to that.
Because I guess what we know is that Sombra has been changed by coming to England.
Yes.
So obviously there is some sort of effect of kind of different things interacting with the shadow and beings from the shadow.
I wonder if she does go in black and white into noir colours, but does Harper sort of, when you're in the shadow, are you suddenly in your like a noir outfit, like a detective costume?
I don't know if my clothes change, but I know that I do look like I belong there. And then Sombra goes from looking like just a regular shadow to looking like a more corporeal being, humanoid-like being.
So will Gwyn change when
that's what I wanted. That's what Harper wanted to know. Like
physicality.
Look at them and be like, is there anything about her, your wings or your aura
This is what
or
I'm
anything
thinking
like that?
is in terms of noir references that would also deal with gods and celestial beings. I'm thinking along the lines of like Constantine.
Yes.
That sort of thing. So I wonder if the changes that Gwyn's clothes turn into that slightly more like if there was a 1940s envisioning of the Morrigans, handmaidens, what they would appear like. So perhaps more, I think you probably see her more in her armour, but there's slightly more tweaked sort of old-fashioned looks about it instead of the sort of Celtic armour. It looks more of the 1940s time. And
Could be maybe like the Art Deco stylized Greek stuff that looks kind of really ornate and cool and beautiful in those very sleek lines. Maybe something like that.
Yeah. Cool. And I think you can definitely see the wings.
Yeah.
Because the wings sort of disappear in the real world unless Gwyn is using them. But I think they are just there.
Okay.
Yeah. That's cool.
Do you know what it sounds like we need? It sounds like we need some fan art of what this looks like. Yeah.
Yes.
So get drawing, people.
Passed out on the sofa, just like looking.
It's so glam.
But I also wonder if, because the Morrigan is quite a dark and shadowy goddess as well anyway, I wonder if in this realm Gwyn's shadow seems darker and there feels like more of the dark side of the Morrigan's presence just feels like it's there.
Yeah, I want to know if with Sombra, like if you can feel a connection between the Morrigan and this realm, if they're like, you know how there's ley lines and we've talked about those, if there's any kind of threading, really. Yeah.
I think at the very least there is like a sense of alignment, almost like how Sombra liked the sound of the sunlit uplands on the ghost train line, not because there was like a literal physical connection between Shadow and that place, but because there was a kind of an affinity.
Right.
Like, I feel like this place is kind of like this place.
Right.
So maybe there's a like this person fits in,
Right.
even if there wasn't like a pre-existing connection. So maybe one is beginning to form.
Awesome. Yeah, Harper would be like, I'm sorry. So why did you grab me for my wonderful purpose and not her? I don't understand. There's plenty of them in the world. Do you know about this? Was there a reason?
Busy being a duck, mate.
Yeah, partly that, and partly I think Harper has become like a bridge, because this world is formed from like a part of the collective consciousness of the USA.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And so it would have been difficult to reach out and grab like a Celtic influence. Obviously, there's some Irish connections in New York and that kind of thing, but
Probably
maybe
more
it
on the
needed.
Italian Jewish
Maybe
side,
this is part of it. Maybe in running away from your purpose, you're fulfilling your purpose.
No escape.
That is my curse.
We've all got our
Okay.
crosses
Yeah.
to bear.
But in terms of Harper and Gwyn and how this relationship is sort of evolved, do you feel like you're bonded now because you've like gone through it? Does Gwyn feel like she owes Harper for getting her out of Dodge? What's the vibe?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a sense of owing you. Probably a bit of embarrassment as well, because Gwyn is supposed to be the one who protect. Which, to be fair, she kind of did.
I can imagine like catapulting awake once you're recovered and going like, did they get out? Did they get out?
Yeah.
Because you don't.
Absolutely.
Gwyn didn't know when she fell
No.
unconscious that she got her sisters out. You got lots of the typing pool out.
I wonder if it was quite a sort of a dramatic. She actually looked more like Dark Morrigan though when she woke up and sort of was like grabbing you like what happened, tell me, and looked more like dark angelic fury.
Yeah.
And then sort of relaxed a little bit, and then we'll probably be embarrassed about that as well.
Cool. I think for Harper, I think it's gone from mistrust to being like, okay, to being like, oh, your whole god thing is connected to this place, grand. Off into my to investigate book and trying to sort of find ways of not ingratiating myself to you, but being like, okay, so now I'm interested.
Yeah.
I'm interested.
And I like that thing that you were saying of like maybe Harper almost sees like this is a potential way out for herself. Like, take this person instead. She's much more suited
I'm not in
to
the
this
plans,
role.
right? Therefore, you have you have those plans, and I'm not in them. Clearly, there's been a miscommunication at some point somewhere,
But the
and we
fact
just
that you have this world, maybe that's why.
it's just a
You are
glitch.
part
I'm a
of the
glitch.
plan
It's a
after all.
glitch.
Exciting. Okay, that's good. That gives us a nice, interesting dynamic for you two going into this production. Now, let's go back to the standard Monster of the Week character creation. We've got some new connections to build. Gwyn needs one with Renko. Harper needs one with Renko and one with Jinny. Jinny needs one with Renko and one with Harper, and Renko needs them with everybody.
Everybody, give me those connections.
Do you want to start, Vicky? Have you got ideas of any that you'd like? Obviously, we've got the list on the playbook, but a lot of us are running out of those questions now. So if you just want to go with common sense, I feel like my relationship with this person would be this. Go right ahead.
So I've been in town for a very long time, and both Jinny and Gwyn have been in town for a very long time. So I feel like we're much more likely to have previous connections, previous forms. So there are a few things that relate to that. So we'll probably dive into one of those. So maybe let's start with Jinny. I mean, I have a handful here. I think basically with my character, I've either allied up with people who are useful in investigations, either from when I was actually stationed here or subsequently. Like I've either done that, or there's somebody that I'm keeping an eye on for some reason. I feel like Jinny probably falls into the former category. So I feel like we've been long time collaborators on dealing with situations of a variety of types. So I feel like it's probably like old friends who originally met through a long chain of coincidences, which obviously would mostly be monster related coincidences. Or there's one about like all signs pointed to working together, so you found them and now you work together. But it's just the slight modifier on that is we've done that lots before.
We are so on the same wavelength, because the moment I looked at my history and I saw this one, I was like, well, that's Renko's. Can I read it to you and see how you feel? An old rivalry has turned into a tight friendship. Tell them what you once fought over.
Yes, I love it. Yes, perfect. Yeah, okay, that sounds ideal.
There you go. Well, what did you once fight over then?
So my whole thinking was, one of my connections is with Doom. And Doom have always kept an eye on me
Exactly.
because I'm a crazy magical person that doesn't fall into their strict. So they're trying to restrict and regulate the magic use, and so they've been sort of investigating. I had a thought, right, that you were the agent that was sent to investigate me, and there was this moment where like Jinny did her doddery old woman act and was like, "Oh, I've got no idea what you're talking about, my love. You're witty." And did all that, and Renko's like, "Shut the fuck up, you! I see right through you. You're too sharp." And then we have like a witty exchange, maybe some like magic throwing things, and then we're like, "Okay, we respect each other.
Yeah.
We're cool. All right,
Yeah.
I like you."
I really like that idea. I like the idea, and I don't have this in the list, but I like the idea of like it started off with that like professional interest, but it's almost like we have like a handler asset relationship.
Yeah.
But for the agency, and then once I got furloughed from the agency, I was then like, you were probably the first person I came to where I was like, it's really not good enough that I've been furloughed, so here's what I'm thinking. And what I'm thinking is, we need to like do something to continue to like manage the situation. So I would have like co-opted you at that point. So I think that can work.
That's really nice, because my whole thing, as we've realised as we built this character of mine, is that I'm a meddlesome old ratbag, and I've sort of pulled threads, and I helped to summon Graham, and I helped to bring Gwynny back. Not Jinny, I'm Jinny.
Well done.
I helped to bring
running the third session mode. Fine.
I helped to bring Gwynned back, and so it makes total sense that we've been working together behind the scenes, pulling the strings and making things happen.
I feel like I would mostly probably have a relationship of like, I don't think Renko actually doesn't trust a lot of people with all of the information that she has, but Jinny probably is someone that she's comfortable sharing some of what she's perceiving to be like the wider, whether that's a good idea or not.
She's a bit of an old gossip.
Is another matter, but I think Renko probably has shared more with, I think it's mostly Jinny and then Melody are the two people that Renko like would trust with actually like what she perceives to be like confidential information.
Renko's inner circle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like people where she's like, this person has a lot of knowledge, or in Melody's case, this person is incredibly discreet. So I think there's something about that where it's like, if there was big stuff going on, then Jinny would probably know almost as much as Renko does.
You say in a circle, do we also hang out outside of work hours, and do we have like a book club or like a knitting group or a brunch club?
Renko's married to the job, so
so difficult. She never turns up.
Well, you need the grandmotherly presence there, being like, put the pen down.
That's almost the relationship I had with Melody as well. Like in the last inquiry, there was a lot of like, you should have something to eat. Please put the paperwork down.
And Melody's also very old, isn't she? So maybe Renko's just looking for that supportive mother figure or great grandmother figure.
As someone who's never encountered Renko before, as a player, not as a character, that's also a thing. Is she basically like the British version of Mulder?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. That's what's sounding, because I think I thought I'd written crazy person type Mulder from X-Files.
Yeah. Okay. There's a lot of other flakes rolled in, but like the flake is fundamentally.
I think she's got the same haircut as well, the David Duchovny 90s curtains.
I want to believe t-shirts.
Okay. I do have a jumper that says, "Hi Mulder, it's me" on it. So
brilliant.
Yeah, I should have worn that today, but I did think I did last time we played actually.
With that in mind, shall we do Harper and Renko? Because I'm interested to see, these are sort of roughly sort of similar kind of archetypes, both very interested in how things connect and the underlying truths of things. What do we think is the history and the backstory and the relationship there?
I had a crazy idea.
No, go for it.
Yes.
I'm here for the crazy ideas. I love it.
But I don't know how it would work.
No, allow me to be the person that makes it work.
Harper is a transfer student, right?
Yeah.
So she has to live somewhere.
Yeah.
During her time in the UK, and we're talking about like a foster family or like someone who puts up. Do you have like a spare room in your flower? Where does Renko live?
Renko just has like a very basic flat in Sheridan, where there was a point at which we'd even debated about whether or not Renko really has furniture because she's so married to the job that she's just like, it's just somewhere to sleep at the end of the day. But I think she probably does have like a relatively like stark kind of, and then probably some kind of office space that could be a spare room. So yeah.
There was either that, or the fact that they're both very similar. Like they're both essentially doing the exact same thing for
different reasons.
Exactly opposite reasons. Because you're like, I want to know more what's going on, and I'm like, I want to know more. Get me out of here.
Yeah,
I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it here.
Yeah.
So there's also a chance that they might have just sort of crossed paths in the process of them researching. I was thinking, Callisterius and you has that relationship?
We have a like. Because he's the expert. I think our previous relationship is something along like, or we were thinking about something along the lines of like, there's a person that, like, whenever we're doing research, we go to the library, and that's so I would have like he would be like one of my experts that I go to for investigating stuff.
Yeah, because I was wondering if Harper
haven't
would
done one
be
together.
working part-time for Calistarius, given the relationship with
Yeah.
Bill and the other thing, it being like she's trying to extract information. She was like, oh my god, you're so interesting, and you're a writer.
Yeah.
Doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
But so she's working at the library part-time, and maybe we cross.
Yeah.
Like, that's where we actually met. And we had this moment of like, it takes one to know.
Yeah, it
You're
does.
like-
Yeah, I wonder if there is also something. I actually quite like the idea of a version of like Flatmates is actually just like Renko taking Harper under her wing, and just being like, okay, I'm going to try and help you get what you want. Because I feel like your approach is very much to like, there's a subterfuge element where you're trying to like inveigle your way into, like with Calistarius, with other people, where you're like, okay, I'm going to use you to get what I want. And that doesn't work with Renko because she knows if you're lying.
Yeah.
So she's probably the only person that can see through, like directly through whatever Harper is saying to the truth. So I wonder if there's something about like, there's a sense of like seeing like, but also Renko being like, this is clearly a person in desperate need of help who thinks that they're alone, and Renko's very invested in helping, and that's the driving force behind why she does what she does. Whereas Harper is quite self-involved because she's like, I just need to get myself out of this situation. I can only rely on myself.
That would be really interesting as well.
I think that would be quite nice because like they are very similar characters, but you're right, like the motivations are very, very opposite, and I feel like there's really good
dramatic.
And I've had kind of like a sort of similar deal with Cameron in Quarry, where it's like he's clearly a young person in need of help, and Renko is drawn to this like, okay, I need
just
to
like
help
young
this
people
person.
who need help
Just
and
like
old ladies.
Yeah, this person needs help. This person needs help. Well, old ladies don't need help. They're fine. They're here to help me.
They're here to help you.
But this thing of like, okay, this is a person who is, in his case, a loose cannon. I feel like Harper has the potential to be a loose cannon in pursuit of her goals also.
Let's just say, like, maybe my original, like, living situation fell through.
Yeah.
And then we met, and you were like, hey, you could stay with me. And I was like,
Yeah. The previous family you were staying with didn't take kindly to all of the stuff you were putting on the walls.
And also Sombra probably wreaking havoc and then being like, what are you doing? You know, when kids get like blamed for doing stuff and like, no, it's my secret imaginary friend. Like, no, it's my secret crazy shadow that has a life of its own. Oh no? Okay.
I had this lovely image of you've been working part-time at the library, and Calistarius has had sort of been so sort of in his own world that he's not noticed that you are trying to investigate him, and you have this otherworldly thing.
Yeah.
And then Renko has come along and gone, oh, I see you.
Yeah.
You're clearly struggling. Let me introduce you to all the rest of the weirdos in the town. And you're like, oh,
like,
no.
There's more than one.
Why?
The opposite of why I came to this town.
I hate to break it to you, but... And, like, I think that's it. Like, I can be useful to Harper because Renko obviously is tapped into a huge amount of potentially useful information, and you would recognise that, but the price that you have to pay is a little bit letting Renko into the situation, which probably makes you very uncomfortable. But Renko is just kind of going to force her way in anyway, because it doesn't matter how much nonsense you give her about what's going on. She's going...
Juicy. This is good. I like this. There's a lot of sort of interesting nuance and possibilities for conflict and all sorts of
I
things.
enjoyed that tension of the relationship with Cameron and Quarry, so I feel like it would be nice to have a similar but different vibe this time.
But it all comes down to the fact that you care and want to care for
that's
people,
it.
isn't it? And that's a big theme I found with the characters we've created. There's lots of wanting to look after each other and loving each other and frustrating. It's all just like one big family, isn't it? I'm like, well, I care for this person and this person, but this, we require something from each other, and it just, I don't know, it's nice.
It is nice.
That's my thought today. I'm feeling very hormonal today. I'm very excited to be back with Jinny.
Rein it in. Well, it is a community, right? That's the whole thing, right? It's about building the community of Sheridan. Is this community of, right? So we're tapping into...
It was never about monsters. It was always about community. The true monsters was the friendship we made.
We are the Ted Lasso of Monster Hunter.
Harper would argue it's a cult.
Wrap up the series there. You've solved my puzzle.
We're done.
There you go.
Continuing around the table, Nat, you've been sitting, listening very intently. You have one more relationship to make around this table, I think.
Well, I feel like Gwyn and Renko's is fairly simple because I think I've already done it.
Okay.
Which is that...
we've talked about it a lot and then
exactly.
haven't had a chance to actually confirm it with the lady herself.
Yeah, I think this is the moment.
So the idea is that whilst other people interacted with Gwyn as a duck, they didn't clock that Gwyn, that duck was not a duck.
Yeah.
And it was something about... I had this image of Renko and Mick on one of their Definitely Not a Date
Yeah,
moments
Definitely Not a Date.
by the duck pond. and you were both like, that duck. How long has that duck been here? Because she looks very unique as a duck, and you put it all together and realised with everything going on in this town that this duck was magical, and then you called upon Jinny to help do a magic spell that brought
Released you.
Gwyn back to life.
Yeah.
See, we're just pulling the threads in the background, just making things happen.
Yeah, I knew that was coming.
So what does that mean for Renko's sort of relationship to attitude to Gwyn back in the other direction? That's the backstory, but then what is the relationship?
Well, I think, and I want to put in a point about our current relationship, because we both have a similar objective around Cameron, but for different reasons. So, like, in the last inquiry, I was very, like, trying to steer him to do the right thing a lot of the time, right? Trying to protect him from doing himself damage, essentially, by, you know, killing somebody out of revenge or, like, sending himself into another realm, stuff like that. So there was a lot of, like, me having to talk him down, and you've kind of done this, like, performed a similar purpose for him in other.
Tried and failed.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's quite.
We've all tried and failed.
We've all tried and failed. I mean, I was only partially successful on a number of occasions, and it was mostly about things like me telling Ernie to get out of town that prevented Cameron from killing him, not because I successfully managed to prevent Cameron from doing a daft thing. So I think there's something like currently that connects us around like we're both kind of trying to in different ways to like.
We need to talk about Cameron.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this is interesting because in my headcanon, Gwyn has been purposefully avoiding Cameron for all this time and has sort of been trying not to, has sort of focused on Percy as a means that, okay, this is a person that it's okay for me to check in on and watch over and be on the shoulder of. Whereas with Cameron, it's much more complicated.
Yes.
And I don't think she's actually spoken to anyone in the team about why Cameron is more complicated. I know a lot of us know sort of backstage out of character that he looks like the guy that caused her to get cursed in the first place. But I don't think she...
we don't know that.
This is me finding out.
So there's a weird, like, I know it's not him, but
it's weird,
So I think she's been trying to avoid Cameron, but maybe with noticing that you've been taking him under your proverbial wing a little bit more, she's been like, how's he doing?
Yeah, that's it. Like, there's a kind of...
It's like you're almost like, separated or divorced parents, and you're like, how's the kid doing?
Well,
ask him yourself.
Yeah, you've, like, recognised that that's what Renko's trying to, like, do for him, and that's kind of, like, a part of her purpose, and it's just, like, you're kind of, that there's a kind of, like, a bit of a checking in of, like... And then I'm a bit like, she's very interested in Cameron, and I'm like, because he's a loose cannon, that makes sense, and clearly needs help, but also I wonder if Renko is just suspicious that there is something bigger at play, but she can't work out what it is.
Sounds great. One more pairing, I believe. Harper and Jinny.
Hi, Harper.
Hello, Jinny.
Do you have any thoughts?
You go first.
Okay.
You have any?
Mine's a bit silly.
Okay.
I'm trying to keep it to this list, but I'm fast running out because I've played with a few people now. I was going to save this for somebody else, but I'm going to use it on you. Your character's American, right?
Yes.
I think Jinny's been to America at some point.
Sure.
She's a well-travelled lady.
Well-travelled, yeah. And, America, pre-European colonisation, was very about the land and about the spirits and the trees and stuff. So I probably had like a gap year over there. a gap.
Pilgrimage of some
Yeah.
sort.
Did you go with the Vikings?
A gap life. Ooh, no, I'm not that old. 1300s, so more sort of like maybe early, maybe just sort of...
Like the earliest Spaniards who got there.
Yeah, or maybe just indigenous. I just floated over there. I was like, these folk look like fun. They're not destroying the land. I'll hang with these guys for a while. Yeah. And at that point, that's when I fell in love with somebody over there. And we had a child, one of many children that Jinny's had, and that child grew up and had a child, and that continued throughout until many years later in America, little Harper was born.
Oh, you're related.
No.
Our relationship is blood relation, though you're out of contact for years. I'd say centuries. Ask them how they reconnected with you. I am your great times 17 great-grandmother.
I mean, I have it in one of my history ones. Is a relative decide between you how close?
Yay! Come to me, grandchild.
And I'm going to blame you for all the weird shit that has happened to me.
Yeah, that's
It's
fair
like
enough.
you tapped into the magic, and now I have to deal with it.
I didn't expect you to go down this dark path. Like, we Greenteeths are all about, fun and fairy and mischief, but ultimately about caring for the earth. No. We never go to Shadow.
I take after the other side.
That was a dark side.
If you were over in the States, like that far back in history, Shadow would not have existed there at that point.
Yeah.
Because it's like a reflection of like the urban, gritty, noir mindset of the USA, which didn't exist back then.
No.
The dark side of the 20th century.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So
it was there before.
It's a more sort of recent fad that you've fallen into.
Yeah, Jinny's not about these newfangled.
No.
You've fully internalised the grandma viewpoint. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't understand it. I don't appreciate it.
It's just a lot of noise.
Yeah, it's not making you happy. You're wasting your time. I don't like the colour that you've dyed your hair. I don't like all the heavy like black eye makeup that you're wearing and the black nails. No. So there we are.
How did they... I'm really interested to know how they figured that connection out.
I have no idea.
I wonder if maybe Sombra felt something
Sombra
there.
might have felt something, or there might have been some sort of like Jinny doing magic that had a strange reaction that you then had to like dig into.
Maybe it was just an ancestry.com check one day. You're like
23andMe,
yeah.
But if
I'm a Greenteeth.
If it's past lives though that
Maybe I look like the person you've had, like the female version of the person you've had. You know how sometimes genes do that when you're looking at a photograph of someone way back in your family and you look exactly like them and you're like, that's weird. But maybe you saw me and you were like,
well, there's like an aura. There's something in your eyes.
I know you. Like, I don't think so.
I mean, it feels like Jinny has the level of perception necessary to be able to just see a person and be like, okay,
it's sharp.
There's something else here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also you've never used it, but you do have the past lives move that lets you communicate and get advice from your past lives. So we know that you are capable of talking to your past selves. So it might be that Harper turns up in town and one of your past selves visits you in a dream. It's like, look after this one. It's one of mine.
I'm sorry, is this Mufasa from The Lion King? They just appear in the clouds above me.
That was the opposite of Ginny's voice, wasn't it?
No, but past life, Jinny, I mean...
Yeah, she was definitely played by James Earl Jones.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think that makes absolute sense.
Yeah, we're related. Call me Granny. Done.
No, thank you.
Amazing. Okay. Well, we are ready in that case to take the stage.
Let's go.
Woohoo.
This has been Vigil, a main house production from Merely Role Players. It stars Natalie Winter as Gwynned, Vicky as Renko, Marta da Silva as Harper, and Josh Yard as Jinny Greenteeth. I'm Matt Boothman and I play the supporting cast. Editing and sound design by me, and the theme music is by Alexander Pankhurst. We were playing Monster of the Week, a role-playing game by Michael Sands, published by Evil Hat Productions. You can find Monster of the Week at genericgames.co.nz. Merely Role Players is a Foggy Outline production in association with Blackshaw Theatre Company. Until next time, if drama be the food of life, play on.